On this week's show, a 3.0 release date, the trouble of licensed games, and news on all things playsets. All this and more in episode number 91 of the Inside Infinity podcast.
What's up, guys? This is John Vignacchi, executive producer on Disney Infinity, and you are listening to Inside Infinity, the first official Disney Infinity podcast on the net.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 91 of the Inside Infinity podcast. I am Will Kelly, and joining me, as always, is Mr. Jason Haynes. Jason, how are you doing today, my friend?
G'day, mate. G'day, listeners. I'm, Monday morning. I've got an exam this week. I could be better, but it's good.
Oh, that's brutal. So does that mean little Infinity playing for you this week because you're going to be studying all week?
No. I'll be streaming constantly and always.
That's what I'd like to hear.
Too late for study. I either know it or I don't, so we'll just have to wait and see.
Amen to that. Well, we have lots to talk about this week, so I think we're going to go ahead and roll into the show. But before we do that, I'd like to welcome everyone who's watching us live. You can watch us live each Monday evening, 8 p.m. Mountain Time. Just head over to twitch.tv/Disney Infinity TV. You can also go there to find our schedule. Jason, you've been doing a lot of live streaming lately, and I think people are digging that. It's been really good. So if you like Disney Infinity and not only like to hear us talk, then also make sure you're following us so you can watch the live streams of the gameplay. Anime makes me happy, or something like that. Welcome, Kingdom Keeper Parker. How's it going? Pikachu, welcome. Primetime UCF, good seeing you again. Prototype, Putz, haven't seen you in a while. The Max Geek and Trey Burke. Welcome everyone who's watching us live. It's going to be a good show, so we're glad to see everyone in the chat room. Giving us some of your thoughts on the news of the week. There was lots of news this week. Before we get started with the news, let's like to mention that Inside Infinity podcast is brought to you in partnership with the Disney Infinity Fans Forum. That's DisneyInfinityFans.com, your number one forum for all things Disney Infinity. It's a great group over there with lots of news, rumors, toy box building, the whole nine. So make sure you head on over to DisneyInfinityFans.com to find out more about them. That, Jason, let's go ahead and roll into the show. Do you see this news about a potential release date? We might actually see what the release date is for Disney Infinity 3.0. So this news is coming at you from InfinityInquirer.com, an exclusive report saying that there was a Best Buy listing of Disney Infinity 3.0 of a release date in the U.S. of August 23rd, 2015. So we don't know if this is in fact truth or not, but Jason, assuming it is, that means that it would be coming to you, a week before or a week after? That generally seems to be what it is, right? Or in that time frame, not necessarily exactly a week, but I think you got
similar
a week.
time frame.
Yeah, I don't know. I think
we were a week earlier last time from memory, which is weird. Never used to be like that way with games, but it just seems like Australia all of a sudden now seems to get games earlier than the rest of the world for some reason. It's very strange.
Because you're in the future, man. There's lots of, you're in Tomorrowland, literally.
That's right.
So I don't know about you, but I do think this would be a great thing if it is in fact true, because rumor has it, as far as video games goes, this fall is going to just be insane. And so my personal preference is 3.0 gets out the door a little bit ahead of everyone else to give it time to breathe and not overshadowed by other video games. Of the mainstream media, obviously, for us and fans of the game, it's not really going to matter, but I think it's important for Disney Infinity.
It also would get be first to market for the Star Wars fans before Battlefront comes out, which is the only other major Star Wars title coming out this year, and so it'd be good to get out ahead of that and capitalize on that ravenous Star Wars fan base that they'll hopefully pick it up just to play Star Wars, even if they're not 100% into it or understand it. I think they'll, just because it is Star Wars, I think they'll give it a good try anyway.
Yep, totally. The Max Geek in the chat room is saying that date would sounds pretty close, because as Disney Australia has said, winter, which means by the end of August for you. So So yeah, that would that'd
It
be
was
awesome.
September 23rd, I think.
Last year it
last
was,
year.
but it was
Yeah,
August
so
23rd the year before. So
interesting.
yeah. Yep. So who knows? Hopefully that date is right. I'm sure I wouldn't be surprised if we
Not that
found.
far away though. That's exciting.
Yes. Seriously, think about it. It's literally a couple months
Yeah,
away.
not
Um,
that far away at all.
and with the news as of late, it wouldn't also surprise me in that respect either. What's up, Latin Soul? Welcome. I bet. Do you think we'll get an E3 release date announcement?
I think so.
Yeah. Yeah.
I definitely think so.
That's kind of what I'm thinking too, and that would kind of make sense with Best Buy leaking this now as well. So, yeah, we'll keep you updated though. As soon as we know, you will know. All right, Jason. This week brought another few videos and information coming at us from Game Informer. We got a few new videos. It kind of seemed like not as many this week, but they were still great nonetheless. The one I wanted to mention specifically was one I found extremely intriguing. It was my senior VP at Avalanche Software, John Blackburn. And you can tell from this video he's a longtime veteran of the games industry, and as someone who's just interested in video games. So here's showing off the old school SNES version of Aladdin, and they show off the the Genesis version. I can't believe it slipped my mind. And basically, this is starting a conversation about the rise and fall of licensed games, and how Aladdin was used as an example of a really good licensed game, and even the Cars here. But it started a really interesting conversation about how there's this period of time in the kind of mid to late thousands, 2007-ish, they said, that licensed games were just coming out as a dime a dozen, and they weren't that great. The time wasn't spent to really make these games the quality of which they should have, and that's something that, regardless of what they were working on, Avalanche really strived to make is really quality games. They did that with the Cars 2. They did that with Toy Story 3, and Disney Infinity. It's something that kind of changed over time. Disney Infinity helped improve this, and was part of the reason that Disney Infinity was so successful. It's not only the pedigree, but they really took the time to make the change and fix the mistakes of the industry. Jason, what was your kind of thought on this video as a whole? Because it started off talking about licensed games, but then it kind of went into Disney Infinity 3.0 and kind of its position in the current market.
Yeah, I think they've. Sorry, let me turn my phone off. Like a pro. I just think that they're really making that statement. I think it's the perfect time to sort of talk about what that is, because I believe Disney Infinity is their answer to that specific problem that you spoke about in that particular video. The idea of I think that they've really cottoned on to not only creating a platform that allows for higher quality licensed or content based on films, but also there's a financial side to it that they've solved by having the extra figures, which allows, again, like smaller games. Not to say that these playsets are small by any mindset, but there's just all these different benefits that they have found to keep a console licensed game alive, which which I'm super happy about, because most people would say, well, most developers are looking to mobile in this day and age.
Right.
They're looking to mobile as the best place to do your licensed IP content, because it's so much easier to produce, distribute, and so on. So I'm just glad that Disney Infinity has found this avenue to create great licensed content, and also the fact that they've set this standard that they're not retelling stories, so they don't have to see final scripts. They don't have to wait till that very last minute when scripts are final,
right,
in order to start producing a really high-end game. They can just work with basically like Inside Out being a sequel, or not necessarily a sequel, but a separate storyline in the same universe. It just seems like they've ticked all the boxes for a great licensed game thing. And the fact is, we do want. I think there's something cool about licensed games, but they've just lost their polish
Right.
over all those years. Like I say, Aladdin, DuckTales, all those games of old when games were quote unquote easier to develop.
Right.
Were really great stuff. And yeah, there was just this. I don't remember the last licensed game I bought outside of Disney Infinity that was attached to a film. So
Right.
we're seeing it now with the Mad Max game.
Mhm.
Everyone's sort of like so on the Mad Max game that's coming out, but it's because they're comparing it to how good the film was.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting.
Very much so. Some other interesting tidbits that Blackburn mentioned. Well, first off, we got a little more actual in-game gameplay of farming, but we also see this cool little hover chair from the Wall-E movie. So it looks like that's probably going to be a power disc, or at the very least a vehicle in the game. I think it's hilarious how it blows up Mickey's head.
Yeah.
And then as Putz in the chat is mentioning, there was a comment about how the release up to this point for 3.0, it's been a yearly release with Disney Infinity, and that's something that they could see changing, and not changing the way they release the game. And so this also kind of goes with what you're saying, Jason, about releasing smaller properties that may or may not have play sets, but maybe they will have play sets coming out that aren't on the disc currently, but maybe downloadable in the future. You know, something like Frozen 2. If Frozen 2 comes out in the next 2 years, but there's no Disney Infinity 4.0, that's something that they might release in a different way. So I don't think we're going to continue to necessarily see these yearly releases, which I don't know. I think that could be a good thing, because I feel like sometimes the game, well, at least 2.0, felt like it could have had a little more polish, and I'm hoping 3.0 isn't the same.
Yeah, I think it was that same interview that he scared me when the issue was raised about, will they continue to work on Disney Infinity, or do they want to work on different things? And I'd never considered the idea of Disney Infinity ever stopping development.
Yeah.
So that was kind of troubling. But it does sound like at the very least they're committed to probably a 4.0 and a 5.0, but beyond that, it may be kind of up in the air.
Yeah.
Which is. I mean, it's like anything though. But I mean, if it's a hit, they're not going to stop it.
Right.
Disney ain't gonna turn the tap off if the cash is flowing.
Absolutely. Yep.
But it's still interesting to think about that concept. You can understand that possibly, they might get sick of developing Disney Infinity, but let's hope not.
Let's hope not. Yeah, it's something like I said, like you said, I don't think will happen anytime soon. But it
we got
was
some
an
years ahead of
interesting
us,
comment. So
yeah.
Cool, Jason. Our friend who was actually on this week's roundtable, Tigga, or Sheriff Woody from the Disney Infinity Fans Forum, he was at a pre-E3 event a couple weeks ago, and he got to release some videos this week with the release of a new Inside Out trailer and some of the gameplay of the week with Twilight of the Republic. And one of his interviews, he was actually interviewing John Blackburn and JV. And the question kind of came out is, Marvel 2.0 characters, are they going to be forward compatible and playable in the next Marvel playset? And the answer to that question was yes. All Marvel 2.0 characters will be playable in the 3.0 Marvel playset. So that's kind of a cool thing. It seems like it might be a similar approach to what they're doing with the Star Wars characters in 3.0, having them all available to play. It just adds more value. I mean, this is what wouldn't you have loved to have had playsets in 2.0 that you could bring in your 1.0 characters?
Yeah, I think this is the right way. I mean, again, I understand when it doesn't make sense to bring Lightning McQueen into a playset. I think it's okay to draw the line there,
Right.
even though they are still toys. But when it's the same universe, let's say all Marvel should be playable in all Marvel, all Star Wars should be available in all Star Wars. And to a certain extent, I don't know whether you draw the line at all Pixar should be playable in all Pixar, or just say, no, everything else is Disney originals and should be playable in those sorts of things. But this is a good step forward anyway. At least makes sense with Marvel, the Marvel franchise and the Star Wars franchise, because they're all similarly controlled characters.
Yep. Putz 2000 is saying yes, value to older figures. Could not agree more, especially with the news of past figures not being updated combat-wise this time around.
Yeah.
Cool. We're not going to go too much into this, Jason, because we already did go in depth with it. But for those that haven't seen it, head over to our YouTube channel. We did one of our famous, or infamous, depending on how you look at it, trailer breakdowns of the Inside Out playsets. So there's an Inside Out trailer that released this week. And Jason, Lloyd, and I, we discuss it at length and break it down frame by frame, which is what we love to do, and discuss all the tidbits in the trailer and all we try to squeeze every last bit of info out of these things, and so we like breaking them down frame by frame. So if you haven't seen it yet, head over to our youtube.com/Disney Infinity TV to check out that trailer breakdown. The news about the Inside Out trailer was awesome, and we're not really going to go over it here simply because we went into it in such depth for that. But Jason, do you have anything you want to mention about that before we kind of move on?
No, I just think it's worth checking out. Like it's a really good look at what's coming in the playset. But we'll talk about it next, I assume, as we got an even better look this week on Disney Infinity TV Live.
So Putz 2000 just made an awesome comment. Said the trailer breakdown was awesome. A whole lot of I don't know, and that's what these trailers of the properties we haven't seen yet. We should have, for that one, we should have had TJ and Julie from the Pixar post on so they could give us some more insight. But yeah, we did our best, and it was fun regardless. So.
Yeah,
and I think we got some info.
We're getting those two on again, right? They're gonna have to come in and give their thoughts on the playset. That's just locked in.
Absolutely, yeah. We've been in talks to get them on, so we'll get them on soon. Cool, Jason. So next up, this is cool. Disney Infinity Live, or Toy Box TV Live, episode number 4 happened this last week. Very different episode than the week before. We got a lot of info this time, where I kind of felt like last week, number 3, was a little bit fluffy. This had a ton.
I've got some good hairdressing tips from that particular episode. It wasn't all wasted.
That's true.
Oh, no, that was the previous episode. My mistake. Sorry. That was the previous episode.
So our friends over at DisKingdom.com did another one of their weekly recaps of Toy Box TV Live. And as you can see here, this is an extremely long post. So there's just a ton of info, and a lot of which, some of the cool things they did were they played the Inside Out playset live. They played the Twilight of the Republic playset live. So it was kind of cool seeing that candid info and gameplay of those two playsets. Kind of, what were your thoughts on that, Jason? Because you're telling me how much you enjoyed it.
Because as a quote unquote member of the media who did not get to see the the press gameplay thing, it was really cool to sort of get that opportunity to see everything that the press media saw. It felt very inclusive on their behalf to allow the hardcore fans to see everything that the press got to see.
Totally.
And it really felt, for me personally, I mean, we get snippets of off-screen footage and stuff. To be able to have it in beautiful, Twitch HD, so to speak, and see it from start to finish was really special. And I felt like it, to me, just seeing the Star Wars for starters, just the intro cinematic, I just thought this feels exactly like the Clone Wars TV series, and I could not be more excited about it. It had all the characters, it had all the voices, it looked super polished, and it looked incredibly fun to play. So I was like, this is win-win-win. And we got we'll go through some of the details that came out from the masterful JV Bean interviewer skit. But then, I mean, so I'll just do it briefly. When they played they finished the Star Wars, and then they did the full playthrough of the Inside Out playset, and that just shone. I mean, that just showed that this is not only is it a platformer which is going to be completely different to the other two playsets, but it actually looked like an innovative play platformer that was doing some interesting things. So it again just showed that it's going to be such a great experience. And I was thinking about it this week. Like for me, if you're a toy box person, the playsets are just like cream on top. Like you already know the toy box is going to be an amazing experience. So anything that says that the playsets are going to be great, like you're just over the moon. Like the game keeps getting better and better. I don't know what it's like to come from it if you're a playset person and don't spend too much time in the toy box. I guess it's just more relief. I guess that there's going to be content for me to play. So, but yeah, in just an overall idea, as I said, it was super inclusive, and I think we need to see more of that, because even from JV's, attitude that he was, putting on that some press can be mean. It's like, well, you don't need to get that attitude from us. We're not going to give you that attitude, and so it's nice to be included in that conversation and have that opportunity to ask the questions that I didn't have the opportunity because I was asleep, but it's nice that the Disney Infinity fans in the US have the opportunity to ask questions right then and there. So
absolutely,
it was good stuff.
Yeah, so they kind of focused on two major areas, the Twilight of the Republic playset and Inside Out. So we'll just kind of go through some of the highlights, bullet points. First, we'll start off with Twilight of the Republic, and Jason, just go ahead and jump in if you have anything that you want to expand on with these. So, estimated gameplay length of the Twilight of the Republic playset is 6 to 8 hours, which is good. That's really good. It's kind of what we've become accustomed to, at least for 1.0. 2.0, they seemed a little bit shorter than that, but don't quote me on that.
I think it's a good length, because at that length, I think you consider doing a repeat playthrough.
Agreed.
I think it's longer than that. If it's a 20, 30-hour experience, it's one that you play and you never play it again.
Totally.
But 6 to 8 hours, I think it's the type of thing that, again, if that combat is as fun as everyone's saying it is, I think that's an opportunity where you might go back and play it a couple times.
Yeah, totally.
2 or 3 times in its lifetime.
Speaking of playsets, Jason, and the idea of having 6 to 8 hours per playset, or around about there, the Maxi Geek in the chat is saying, what do we think will happen with the playsets? They keep saying 5 currently announced. Do we think there will be more than 5, and they just don't want to say? What do you think, Jason?
So 5 is the 3 Star Wars, the unreleased Episode 7, Inside Out, and is one just not announced, or am I missing one?
One's Marvel.
That's right, the Marvel one.
Yeah.
I think there'll be at least one new playset, maybe 2. Tops.
I'm thinking 2. I'm thinking another Star Wars in the form of Rebels, and I'm thinking Disney. Some sort of Disney, another Disney one. But yeah, I would not be surprised if they did 1 or 2, like you just said.
Oh, I also just want to touch on, because this was released in, I think, one of the interviews that was on the Disney Infinity fans. It was brought up that one of the problems they're having at the moment is literally that they are at capacity on the disc.
Yeah.
Everything that's on the disc is literally at capacity, which is why one of the limitations, because there's so many audio files in multiple languages, so many move sets that all need to be put on the disc, they're at a capacity, which is why they can't even really consider putting the old playsets on, because there's just not enough room. Now, I assume that means that capacity for last gen, because 360 is on DVD, right?
360's DVD, yep. So is, I believe, Wii U.
So we assume that that's the limitation, because obviously a Blu-ray, which Xbox One's Blu-ray, correct?
Yep.
Yeah, so that's obviously a lot more data. So the quicker we get rid of the last gen, the more options we will have.
Well,
just wanted to point that out. It was interesting to hear that they're at capacity. And that's only going to get worse as more and more characters get in the game. So they've got to do something about that.
It's crazy, because that's something that I'd never thought of before. But it kind of like blows your mind. You're like, well, yeah, every game you're bringing over stuff from previous games, and there's a lot of stuff you're bringing over, and that physically takes space on the disc.
Yeah.
So yeah. So
side note.
Interesting. Way to bring that up, Jason. They said that they worked closely with Lucasfilm to make sure everything was up to Lucas's standards, which is awesome. So we know that it's going to be high quality. Although it may not be canon, it will still follow whatever rules they have in place. We've known that the game's going to be available in digital at launch, so that's something that is something they reiterated. So that's a little bit of the Twilight of the Republic info. Do you have anything else, Jason, that you wanted to mention about that playset?
I was just thinking then. Oh no, you got the toy box. I was going to say, because if the game's available digitally at launch, I was wondering, you're not going to be playset. So effectively, you just have access to the toy box if you haven't pre-purchased a playset, so to speak.
Right. And they did that with what? Didn't they do that with Wii U or the PS3 or PS4 this last time? I can't remember.
No, digital came much later in the game, because I would have had it otherwise.
Right. No, I mean, but they did have a toy box only digital version, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I don't know that it was specifically called that, but it was just the game in digital.
Yeah.
Digital form. But yeah, so that's still, you're still going to want to have to go out and get that playset ASAP. If you want to actually play anything, but I guess technically you will be able to just launch, but you won't. I mean, there'll be a base set of toys you can play with, so it makes sense.
Well, and so one thing, this is something that is now kind of possible that wasn't possible last time. It was possible for certain of the systems, but the Xbox One required a new base, and so I think that's part of the reason we didn't get a digital version at launch. And so it's great that now they're aligned with the more traditional, the modern, actually not traditional, but the modern way of doing these video game releases is offering a digital only version. And the trick here is it just requires some hardware.
Yeah. Cool.
So after they talked about Twilight of the Republic, they went into more details of Inside Out. They mentioned how the load up screen is the headquarters in the Inside Out movie, and that when they were at Pixar Studios showing off the game, the actual movie animators and designers who created the headquarters were pretty excited and loved seeing that in the game, which is really kind of cool. We've mentioned at length that it's a platform puzzle game, both 2D and 3D. So there is going to be both, but it is primarily a platformer. Yes, Prototype, they did announce that the digital version's coming out on day one as well for 3.0.
Yes. Yeah. Which is great.
It is great, yeah. They did discuss the different abilities that the characters are going to have. We talked about that in our breakthrough, so we're not going to discuss that. But one thing that kind of goes into play with that is that some characters have different abilities that is pretty much required for some of the gameplay in the Inside Out playset. Well, what they're doing to get around that is they are having kind of costume change disc, although I don't think they're going to be disc. There's going to be some sort of costume change where, say you're playing as anger, and you need sadness for something. You're somehow going to be able to activate a sadness costume change to accomplish that without owning the figures.
Which will last like 30 seconds.
Mm-hmm. But that's cool.
That is very, very good. I mean, that's forward thinking, because I say that was going to be the number one thing that people from outside were going to complain about, is like, it's ridiculous. I've got to spend all this money on all these different figures in order to complete your game. So that's very forward thinking of them. And I think it's probably going to be, in a way, it's kind of like advertising, because you can only use this cool character for 30 seconds. So, and it's not like you can use them in the toy box post. So it's like, I really like playing with this character. I'm going to buy that character so I can play with them in the toy box. It's a good move. Everyone wins in that situation.
Absolutely. I totally agree. Spoiler alert, if you don't want to know the story of this playset, skip ahead maybe a minute or two. That is your warning, because now I'm going to tell you the premise of this playset is Riley, who's the main character in the movie, has a nightmare and it scatters all her memories in her head. It's up to the emotions to gather the memories and put them back into the main headquarters. The playset takes place after the film, so it's kind of a sequel. But again, these games aren't necessarily canon in these universes. They're just additional stories.
No, in a way, it's good because you don't have to shoehorn gameplay into a story. Like, they can make it fun to play first, which is the way you want it to be. Really, you just want you want to play the characters in a fun game.
Totally. Yeah, I like that. I would prefer this this way.
Looks like just a good old-fashioned fetch quest platform. I'm really excited about it. Like I haven't been excited about a traditional platform in a long time, and this looks great.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. And kind of on that 2D platformer is that if you're playing multiplayer, if you're playing co-op, it will not split the screen. So you're going to have both characters on the same screen at once, which is really cool.
Very cool.
There's going to be 25 different levels in the playset, and they do get progressively harder. And there's also some balloons that you collect throughout the game that is kind of the collection game. And so you can go back through and try to beat your score on finding balloons and stuff like that in both speed and amount. So there will be some replayability. Lastly, they mentioned that Lewis Black and Phyllis Smith will be reprising their roles in the game as both Sadness and Anger. So not to say that others won't, but those are the two that has been mentioned so far.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Good stuff.
Anything else about Inside Out, Jason?
No, again, it just looks like, I say, it's an innovative platformer. It's not just a copier thing. It looks like they've really taken that time to polish it, and it looks fantastic. So I'm excited to play it. I think the co-op thing is awesome, being on single-screen co-op. It just seems like they've done a really good, well-thought-out platform, and hope we see more of it in the future.
Totally. We talked about it with Lloyd on our trailer breakdown, and I also talked a little bit to Sheriff and Pirate Steve, who was also on the roundtable today, about the Inside Out playset. And Putz is reinforcing this idea in the chat, saying that his daughter is much more excited about Inside Out playset than anything Star Wars. And so I definitely think Inside Out could... It's looks interesting to a wide range of players, but I think to a younger audience, it's colorful, it's whimsical, it's just fun. So I think it might be very interesting to younger players of the game as well.
Well, my daughter asked to play it. She said, "Can I play that one that was on?" Because she was watching the Twitch stream with me, and I said, "No, not out." Just as blunt as that. Like,
of course. Hey, you gotta teach them young. It's your responsibility.
That's it.
The world's a cold, dark place.
That's it. It's all about crushing dreams at this age.
Oh, I love it. Great. Sweet. Last bit of news, Jason. It's not really Infinity related, but it might have just killed any hope we may ever get of getting a Tron playset. So news came out this week that the Tron 3 movie that has been rumored, had been talked about being made by Disney, it looks like it has officially died. It's no longer being made. Not to say it could never be made in the future. In fact, it had already been dead before its more recent revival. But IO9, among other places, has said that Tron 3 will not be made, which is kind of sad. Jason, I know you had thoughts about this, so I did just want to mention that.
Where this is relevant to Disney Infinity is because I believe, and I don't know this for a fact, but I believe at least one of the reasons why is that supposedly because of Tomorrowland, well, it says there, in wake of Tomorrowland's underperformance, they've decided to kill Tron 3.
Right.
Which translated to Infinity means basically they're only going to, I mean, and rightfully so, they're only ever really going to work on properties that are going to be, expected to be profitable. And so the question is, what does this mean for Disney Infinity moving forward? Now that they've publicly stated, and it's pretty obvious that 3.0 signifies the sort of the completion of the initial launch phase of Disney Infinity, and moving forward we can expect future playsets and so on to be based on upcoming Disney films and properties. It's like, what do we think that means for the beloved prior franchises? I mean, we've the hardcore 30 pluses like us have all been on about like a Robin Hood playset would be amazing. All these classic films would be amazing as a playset. But does this kind of behavior just give us the reality check that we're never going to get that kind of content? But we got Tron in Disney Infinity, so is there hope that if there's enough passion behind a project, they'll throw us a bone and go, well, look, yes, we'll have 1 out of every 6 play sets will make a completely just, this is for fan service. Like, it doesn't matter if it's profitable, we'll let the other play sets prop it up. Or do you think in Disney's mind they're like, no, dollar is king, we're only going to produce play sets for future properties? Because most young kids, unless you're a awesome parent like myself, don't show their kids the older Disney films. Back when I was a kid, Disney would re-release their old films in the cinemas every 10 or 20 years or something like that. So I got to see Pinocchio in the cinemas. I got to see most of the original Disney classic animations in theaters. And obviously, I mean, that's what DVDs and stuff are. But parents really going out of their way to educate themselves in old school Disney. Hence, you know, what's the profitability of creating some of these older franchises in playset form?
You know, that's a great question. I think the one thing we do have going for us is that the heads of the game are passionate Disney fans. For anyone who has been following JV for any amount of time knows that he has a very special place in his heart, and he loves Captain EO. And in fact, in the interview with Sheriff, is that he if the means are there, he might be able to make a Captain EO. And so I don't know. I'm not to say that we're ever going to see Captain EO, but I do think that at least we have JV, John Blackburn, among others in the company, kind of in our corner, in the Disney fan corner. And Condor Man, Wings, and 1.0, that's pretty obscure. And although that's a small piece, I don't know.
And we can't, again, and you know, it's like I'm not even me, but like obviously in the past I've said, as long as they give us enough cool homage content in the toy box, there's nothing stopping us as a community building that. And so I could definitely see I could see them giving us a Robin Hood figure. I could see them giving us a Snow White figure, and then I could saying, right, well, it's up to you to build the playset quality playset. Or the only other way I could see it is if they do sort of like a compilation Disney playset that tells some story where you're visiting, each level is representative of an old classic Disney cartoon, which would be amazing, mind you. It's just that question of money. Like, for instance, just before we went live, I made up a mock playset of Monkey Island, which is an old LucasArts property, and that's a perfect example of a property that is dead in the water because Disney killed LucasArts. But they own the IP. It's amazing characters, and in my opinion, I think Disney Infinity is the place that they can resurrect those characters and worlds, because as I said previously, it's got the added benefit of it doesn't have to be a full release game, so to speak. They can offset its cost by adding figures. So if you created a Monkey Island playset and created 4 figures purchasable from that property, that can help offset the cost of creating the game. They know, like, they're currently Double Fine is remastering the Maniac Mansion 2, the Day of the Tentacle, and JV said to us, this would be really cool. And like, how cool would off the back of that to have a Maniac Mansion playset where you get the Tentacle Brothers or whatever they are as figures. And again, it's a small fan base possibly that would get that, but it's the right platform outside of mobile to release a game like that. And that's what I hope to see in the future of Disney Infinity, is taking those risks. Yeah.
Well, and that's where if the proper release is spread out and more content is added in DLC, there's a lot less risk in that. It costs a lot less money because there's no physical distribution outside of the figures themselves. So that could totally help that.
And it's such a, like, I mean, it's a ravenous audience. Like, people would be right into that. If there was a new Day of the Tentacle 2, that would make a splash in the industry. And the point is, you've got the advantage because, let's say it was coming in 3.0, you've got your Star Wars. Your Star Wars is going to be your moneymaker. You've got the opportunity to take that side risk and go, let's dabble and see if we can build our audience and reach this other, older audience using some really old classic characters that otherwise will end up just dead in the water.
So we're kind of in this weird state. Jason, I think a lot of a lot of industry leaders in lots of different forms of media now are kind of like us. They're about our same age range, and so we're in this really unique first time ever nostalgia trip in all forms of media. There's all these old shows being brought back. The Maxi Geek in the chat is saying that that we could see something with the DuckTales, since there's a DuckTales TV reboot. And so,
and Darkwing Duck, wasn't it? In Darkwing Duck coming back as well?
Didn't
they say they were rebooting that?
I'm not sure. That
would be amazing.
That would be awesome. And so that might be another way, is that although right now it may not be as relevant as it once was, in a year when they do a re-release of something or a reboot, then we might still be able to get some of that nostalgia love.
I'll be personally offended if we don't get a playset for the Del Toro Haunted Mansion reboot.
Me too.
Personally offended if I do not get a Hatbox Ghost figure and an amazing playset. Imagine imagine a playset that played something like Luigi's Mansion. I was a personal fan of Luigi's Mansion, but that idea of like trouncing through almost like an interiors playset where you're going through a mansion would be incredible.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Trying to capture 999 ghosts. Like, bring that on. Like, that's the playset I want in the future.
Yep.
But yeah, like, it just seems wrong. I mean, I think rightfully so. If they cancel Tron 3 purely because of Tomorrowland's performance, that seems wrong to me.
Yeah,
I doubt that's not going to be the sole reason.
Yeah.
But
well, they did have they had a Tron TV show in the vein of Rebels that didn't make it a full season. So it seems like for whatever reason.
I think Tron is one of those franchises that is just like, it's very much a nostalgic franchise. Doesn't actually have that many hardcore fans. And I love Tron, but even I'm like, can they really make an engaging film again? I got the nostalgia itch with the Tron Legacy. I'm kind of done.
Yeah. Well, cool, buddy. Well, you know what? I think that's going to wrap up this week's show. There was a lot of info, and we're just going to keep rolling out the news as it's released. I expect more videos. Game Informer is going to be wrapping up their coverage real soon, but E3 is just around the corner. The news is just going to keep on coming, and next week is supposed to be another big week on the Toy Box TV Live, so I'm sure we'll be talking about that. Do you have anything else before we end things, Jason?
No, I don't think so. I'm just saying, I'm really excited for E3. I can't wait to see what comes out. I feel like they've got some big announcements to come out of E3. I think you got to. That's what E3 is all about. So it's going to be fun to see that. So
yes,
bring it on.
Absolutely. Agreed. Thanks everyone who joined us on this off time this week on the show. We appreciate you watching live in chat. Next week, I think we're going to be back to our regular schedule, so it will be Monday evening, Tuesday midday Australia. So we'll be back to normal next week. So hope to see you back there if you are missing these Sunday shows. Thanks everyone joining us, and we will be watching the news, and we'll be bringing it to you real as soon as we find out. Make sure you watch Jason's live streams as he's streaming throughout this week. But until then, until next week, we hope your week is filled with infinite possibilities. We hope you enjoyed this week's episode of the Inside Infinity podcast. If you like what we do, please hit that subscribe button on YouTube, and also follow us on Twitter, and look for us on Twitch, and check us on Facebook. Also check out our parent network, or partner network, res.tv, youtube.com/ResTV. And if you like what we do and you want to support us in other ways, check out our Patreon page and become a patron, patreon.com/Disney Infinity TV.